May Allah's peace, mercy, and His greetings be upon you. As we go into 2020 AD, the advocates of the theory of evolution don't have a single, detailed model of the emergence of a single molecule in the cell, as well as a single detailed model of the emergence of any living being by evolution at all. What they only have is virtual analysis. How did the world of four-way encryption emerge? The world of DNA. As DNA is the genetic strand that we talked about in the previous episodes. How did DNA emerge? Do you know how the advocates of the theory of evolution answer? They say, there may be a world of RNA that existed before the world of DNA. Even though RNA is a quad encryption system, and it encrypts for specialized, functional systems. Each cell of yours has worlds of RNA. And RNA is what acts as protein maker inside the cell. Therefore, using the world of RNA as a justification for the emergence of the world of DNA is just like adding complex systems to other complex systems, and calling that an explanation. The world of RNA also uses quadruple encryption, just like the world of DNA. More importantly, the hypothesis regarding the world of RNA is completely wrong. Because RNA is weak by nature, and only exists within a living cell, so that it could be a temporary store of information. RNA shatters automatically.
If you just look at an RNA molecule, it seems to fall to pieces. Working with RNA is extraordinarily difficult because it's so delicate. It's meant to be a temporary store of information. And as a consequence of its delicacy, it's extraordinarily unlikely that it's going to be useful as some kind of starting point for life.
So RNA can't precede the first cell.
RNA can't precede the first cell. The advocates of the theory of evolution only provide fantasies. For that reason, one of the most famous philosophers of science in the 20th century, the agnostic Karl Popper, said that the theory of evolution is just a metaphysical program. It's only a leap of faith for atheists. And it's not a scientific issue at all. The advocates of the theory of evolution raged against Popper when he said those words. And they tried to prove that the theory of evolution can be tested. However, Popper wasn't convinced. And 2 years before his death, he admitted to the magazine of Scientific American that he was still not satisfied and unconvinced by that theory. Scientific American published Popper's confessions and other researchers in an article entitled Doubtful Darwin: Why Some Smart, Non-Religious People Doubt the Theory of Evolution. Popper has maintained his position regarding this theory in the last book he wrote 2 years before his death, entitled Evolutionary Epistemology. In that book, Popper has cited confessions of senior scientists of the theory throughout its history, and he cited from a senior Darwinian, in his words, C. H. Waddington. Natural selection is no more than a tautology. Tautology means redundancies and repetition. Natural selection, which is the backbone of the theory of evolution, isn't justified with evidence. Natural selection isn't a scientific issue, but it's just repetition and redundancies. Natural selection is just like the case of those who justify the thing by itself. But why is natural selection considered tautology? That's because you will assume that any living being has been naturally selected just because it is still alive. It's just repetition. What's our justification for what happened being selection? Why can't be another thing that kept it? For any living being that is still alive, the advocates of the theory will assume that it was naturally selected. Tautology. They only provide assumptions, but not scientific observation. Popper continues, the same words of Waddington. Major scientists of Darwinism who also have doubts like Ronald Fisher. Ronald Fisher, the founder of the Neo-Darwinism, also confessed that natural selection is a tautology. By the way, when Dawkins was asked, who is the most famous biologist after Darwin was, he answered, Ronald Fisher. Fisher confessed that natural selection is a tautology. John Haldane, a geneticist, and co-partner of Fisher in founding Neo-Darwinism, also confessed that natural selection is a tautology. George Simpson, an American paleontologist, and worked for more than 20 years at the American Museum of Natural History, also confessed that natural selection is a tautology. The senior scientists of the theory of evolution also admit that. That is also what Popper said. So, natural selection isn't a scientific concept. Inside the laboratories of Michigan University, the result, that Popper has concluded, has become a practical reality. At that university, they try to conduct the theory of evolution. They have conducted some kind of simulation, where 1 million years will pass. Then, what was the result? Trillions of bacteria emerged. However, not a single new protein has emerged. As well as changing a kind to another kind. Let's watch the experiment together.
Since the late 1980s, Michigan State University biologist Richard Lenski has been running a long-term evolution experiment with E. coli bacteria. A staunch supporter of Darwinian evolution, Lenski wanted to follow a population of bacteria over time and see what new functions would evolve.
I'm a big fan of this experiment because it does not put out a model, it's not a computer model, it's not a theory. What he did was let evolution happen on its own and say, what did it do?
By 2014, Lenski and his researchers had grown over 60,000 generations of bacteria.
That's equivalent to, say, a million years in the lifespan of a large animal like us. And there have been trillions upon trillions of different bacteria that have been born and died in his flasks.
Although often cited as providing evidence for Darwin's theory, Lenski's experiments are perhaps most revealing in what they haven't produced.
We don't find a new protein with a new fold with a new function. By and large, these are deletions, insertions, rearrangements of information that's already present.
We didn't find a new protein. After 60,000 generations of bacteria, and after the emergence of trillions of bacteria, 1 million years of evolution had passed inside the flasks of Michigan University laboratories. What was the result? Evolution didn't work. Natural selection didn't work. We did not find a new protein. The strange thing is that Darwin himself felt that there is a problem with his theory. In 1862, Joseph Dalton Hooker, a British botanist, sent a message to Darwin that says, "Do you think the origin of the diversity in the peaks of birds, or the difference between living beings, under the same kind, is natural selection?" No. Not at all. Simply, there is genetic diversity in the ancestors. There are differences within a single species that allow the emergence of all these multiple forms. That's strange. As if Hooker was speaking about the genetic pelvis of the species that has been observed 100 years after his words. The genetic pelvis is what allows the different forms within the framework of a kind of living species to emerge. It is the genetic pelvis of humans that allows tall and short, fat and thin, white and black to emerge among them. The important thing is what Darwin said to him. But the part of your letter which fairly pitched me head over heels with astonishment is that where you stated that every single difference which we see might have occurred without any selection. I do, and have always fully agreed, but you have got right around the subject, and viewed it from an entirely opposite and new side. I imagine that Darwin would abandon the theory if he saw the experiment of Michigan University. The advocates of the theory of evolution are more like treasure diggers, as they search through the different layers of earth, day and night. They dig and break tons of sediment, sand, and shale rocks. Even though there's a vault in front of them, with a sign that says treasure is here. The precise divine creation is just ahead of you. But, unfortunately, they ignore that vault, because they think that the treasure must be underground. So, the advocates of the theory are starting off by a wrong point, which is explaining life and diversity among living beings, must be a material explanation. So, they are still digging. Even though, the proof for precise divine creation is in front of them, at every moment. After conducting different experiments, it's been proven that the theory of evolution doesn't work. And natural selection doesn't work either. But, they ignore those facts, and keep digging. Turning a blind eye to the vault with the fact that the theory has failed in each test, experiment, and laboratory. Then stubborn continuation is severe harm to science. Delaying so many branches of science, and a waste of advantages, that could have been well exploited in other aspects. For today's assignments, is keep reading the book of 40 Mistakes in the Theory of Evolution. Till the next episode, we will read till page number 75. You can find the book in first link in the description. Thanks for listening. May Allah reward you well. And may His peace be upon you.